Wade Wilson is a resident of Longueuil, Quebec, a suburb just south of Montreal. On Thursday, when he came to this splash pad with his grandchildren, it wasn't working.
So my wife reached out to 311 to just find out exactly what was happening. And they basically told her, which still shocks me today, that she didn't have the right to be communicated to in English.
Most civil servants must now communicate with citizens in French. People can still get health care in English, but here's what Montreal's 311 line sounds like when you choose English.
We will be pleased to provide service in English if you attest in good faith that you are covered by one of the following exceptions. If you are a person declared eligible to receive English education, if you are an Indigenous person, if you are a recently arrived...
Your only Montreal suburb of Côte-Saint-Luc is 60% Anglophone. Their new information line message is raising some eyebrows.
If you'd like service in English, press 2. Oh, and by the way, you don't need to show us your grade 3 report card, and you don't have to pinky promise anything. This is the city of Côte-Saint-Luc, and that's how we roll.
I think it's a good way to show the absurdity of this law.
Immigrants must be able to communicate with the government in French within 6 months of their arrival.
I would suggest to some of the people who have implemented this law to try it themselves, to try learning another language in 6 months, enough to be able to function totally in that language.
But French classes aren't always immediately available, and the website for the government's new French language instruction agency is only available in French.
What else is new in Quebec? More government papers, more nonsense.
Quebec's new language law, Bill 96, brings changes for business owners as of Thursday.
They're just creating problems and more harassment of the Anglos in Quebec. And I wouldn't be surprised if the immigrants are going to stop coming into Quebec and go directly to Ontario or Western Canada.
In an effort to make French the common language of the workplace, the government is imposing trainings through their Francisation Québec program for those unable to communicate in French.
They all can converse somewhat. Nobody in this law or has advised me how well they have to speak French. To me, if they can say bonjour, hello, je peux vous aider, that's enough for me. That'll take care of the customer.
Hi. Most of my family does not speak French because I've been a waitress for 30 years, so I took on the language. But they don't. So I have to be the one involved whenever it has to do with speaking French.
Another change in effect is businesses will only have access to French language government services.
I will read the French document, but I will answer them in English only.
Bill 96 also allows customers who are not served in French to file a complaint directly to the OQLF, Quebec's language watchdog.
We've never had an issue with a customer. We've only had issues with the government. Our signs are not big enough, our signs are too small, there's too much English on our signs, we have 45 languages on our sign, that's not good.
Harry has been to court fighting the OQLF several times over the last decades, but has never been fined.
It's still a form of harassment, and they just don't leave us alone.
Could Canadian tires in Quebec soon look like this? What about Home Depot? Or Subway? Or could Costco also change its look? And the same for Dollarama, all 400 of them. Particularly stores with non-French names need to add French descriptions that are twice as large as the name itself. The provincial government produced this document to help businesses understand. It showed two options: a larger description above the store name, or add a bunch of descriptive words that take up twice the space of the name. If we applied option 2 to this Canadian Tire and its 20-meter sign, it would look something like this. Home Depot might have to look like this. Or Costco, this. Or they could all just shrink their store names too, I suppose. These are the options for any store in the province that has a name in any language other than French. The stores named after someone or a family are exempt, so McDonald's, Bell, Guzzo Cinemas, and others are safe. And he did express one concern that really gets to the heart of this. Supersized signage aside, changes to storefronts like this cost money, big money. The province estimated the changes would cost businesses $7 to $15 million total province-wide, but a lawyer who specializes in business compliance with the Charter of the French language says that's more likely the cost for one big chain.
A big store, for example, you will have the trademark at several places on the building. It's not one sign, it's potentially multiple signs, because it's really every time the trademark appears on the side of the building.
Just to give you an idea of how many locations and signs we're talking about, in Quebec there are 620 subways. We mentioned the 400 Dollaramas, 200 New Look eyeglass stores, 100 Canadian Tires, 70 Walmarts, and plenty others with dozens of locations. And companies are also on a tight deadline. They need to study the law, design new signs, get them approved under municipal zoning regulations, fabricate and install them, all before June 1st, 2025. All of this necessary, according to Quebec's French language minister, to protect that language. But I'm still left wondering, will big chains actually go through with this, eat the fine, fight it in court, or leave Quebec altogether? Well, for now, this is just a draft regulation, which means retailers still have a chance to voice their opinions. But the lawyer I spoke to says once regulations reach this stage, they usually don't change. And if they don't, after June 1st, 2025, if your local Canadian Tire still looks like this, you can report them to the OQLF. Or you can just go buy something.
We're here to show our displeasure with Bill 96 and to show the Premier that we will be heard, and to say to the Premier, we're here, we're not going anywhere, we're proud Quebecers, we're not a threat to French, and we want him to understand that. And we want the government to back off with this law that is causing so much distress and so many problems for Anglophone and Allophone Quebecers.
It's not that the language law affects me directly because I'm bilingual in English and French, but I just feel like internationally Canada is known as a place that's accepting of all cultures, and it feels like a really regressive step backwards for our province to be legislating this, that you know, French, it feels like we're almost creating a two-tier society where French people are above, you know.
The current CAQ government is leading by emotion and not by logic. They're dividing the population. A good leader should bring people together and not divide them.
The English community is being eroded completely from the history of Quebec. Completely. And we have to stop the CAQ's appetite for intolerance.
This is my home. I do not want to leave, and I will not leave. I feel that leaving Quebec in the face of what I consider to be a fight is not the way, and that we should be standing up for our rights and fighting.